My first attempt at reviewing a fan film is not something I'm proud of, and I have been tempted about remaking that video on SCP-096. But for now, I'll leave it as comparison on how well it stands next to this one. The Friday the 13th franchise is known throughout popular culture for spawning one of the horror genre's most iconic movie monsters in Jason Voorhees, who haunts the grounds of the summer camp where neglectful camp counselors caused him to drown as a child. In the first movie, the killer hunting and killing the counselors was Jason's mother Pamela, who was then killed by one of the last survivors of the first film. A resurrected Jason saw his mother being killed, in self-defense, by her last would-be victim, which then set Jason off to kill anyone who would trespass on the abandoned campgrounds that he made his home. The resurrection was done either as a curse or as Jason's mother Pamela had gotten her hands on the Necronomicon Ex Mortis from the Evil Dead franchise, as that book has a quick cameo in the 9th movie Jason Goes to Hell the Final Friday. Agile method of writing where the filmmakers likely borrowed the prop from another franchise, if you ask me. Otherwise, the Friday the 13th franchise has spawned about 12 film installments, the first one premiering in 1980, and the latest official installment came out approximately 13 years ago in 2009. According to the franchise's Wikipedia page, the IP is currently owned by Warner Bros. Under New Line Cinema, with the series co-creator Victor Miller apparently winning a lawsuit for its domestic rights only last year. So, who knows in what state the franchise is right now, and whenever we are going to see another official installment of Friday the 13th. And that leads us to the topic of today's video. Last year I was invited to like and follow a Friday the 13th fan film on Facebook titled "We Spent Friday the 13th at Camp Crystal Lake, No Clickbait." Prior to the fanfilm's release, the filmmakers also did a bunch of YouTube shorts in chronologing the Friday the 13th film series as in-universe documentaries of the film's events to deem them as canon, while the comics were apparently deemed as urban legends. By that logic, Freddy vs. Jason is canon, but Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash is not. There is even a dialogue exchange in the fan film about the last 2009 movie having been Jason's last recorded sighting.
When was the last recorded sighting of Jason? I had my sources say 2009.
It depends on what you mean by confirmed sighting. 2009 was the last time somebody saw him and lived, but we've seen continued evidence of his presence in these woods for a long time.
Very likely.
Since the director is my friend on Facebook, I decided to pitch in for the Indiegogo campaign enough to get a t-shirt, and when the movie premiered on May 13th, I woke up at 3:45 AM on May 14th in my time zone to watch the premiere live on YouTube. We Spent Friday the 13th at Camp Crystal Lake, No Clickbait is about a group of YouTubers named Victor, Sean, Whitney and James who, unlike me, can talk to the camera instead of recording their lines with a microphone. Victor and Whitney are introduced first as a couple and the hosts of their own channel, with Sean being an outside collaborator, and James the cameraman mentions later in the fan film that Whitney is his cousin. This team of 4 plans to do an investigative video report project on Camp Crystal Lake and learn what really happened there. In their announcement video, they ask any of their local fans if they are willing to be their guides, and on the car ride there, they pick up this true crime documentary fan named Alice. Before they pick Alice, 3 out of our group of 4 is shown behaving like walking stereotypes which, well, this is an 80s slasher film inspired fan film, so that is likely what they were supposed to be. And by that comparison, it should be obvious what happens to them by the time the fan film reaches the 3rd act. Besides Alice, the group also picks up another local girl named Perry, whose introduction and overall portrayed behavior shows that she has lived through one of Jason Voorhees' massacres that she later shares with the others.
I saw him. I was 13. A slumber party dare turned into me spending the night alone on the lake. I saw him. I don't think he saw me, or else I would be dead now. but it was him, or it. I don't think there's enough humanity in Jason Voorhees for him to qualify as human.
Now, I am not going to spoil the entire plot of the fan film, because I'm still going to give you, the viewer, the chance to go and watch it after the review is over. The link to the fan film is down in the description. I am, however, going to talk about a couple of things shown and done in the third act eventually, but I will put a spoiler alert there. As of locations, the chat of the live broadcast reveals that they filmed at multiple locations, so at times the lakefront of the Crystal Lake ends up looking different here and there in a couple of scenes. However, the main camp area stays somewhat consistent when it's shown. I also don't know how much of the acting or direction was improvised, since there is one scene where a helicopter flies above our group and they take cover. The helicopter was likely not a part of the fan film story, and if it wasn't there, bravo for using that footage of it to get a somewhat human response from the characters getting startled a bit. Okay, and now let's move on to do some spoiler territory talks. Feel free to go watch the movie if you feel intrigued to go watch it, and wait 46 minutes before continuing, but now I'm going to move on to the spoilers in the second half of the fan film. You'll be spoiling yourself if you go further than this without having seen the fan film first. That was the last spoiler warning, and now I'm moving forward. So, somewhere at the halfway point, the group discovers a censored remains of a something, and since they don't want to involve the police in their video project, they instead choose to cover it with plastic and duct tape before dragging it out of sight. Now, this is the point where the original 3 out of 4 group of characters begin to twist into those unlikable walking stereotypes who hung their brains on a coat hanger when they checked into the camp area. The Darwin Award candidates decide to stay and kill Jason for YouTube views, even I'm not that desperate with my current situation, while sane people, which includes the cameraman James, decide to leave when they discover that Perry's younger brother Hector is also there. However, when they are forced to turn back because the river has flooded, guess what happened?
Yeah, this isn't just murder. This is revenge. What? They used his own worst enemy's weapons and tactics against him. He didn't take this lightly.
Now, on a fan film budget, it is understandable why the walking stereotypes ended up getting slaughtered off screen, and most of the budget went into showing the aftermath the only way it looks believable on a fan film budget. Now, I'm not saying that as a bad thing, because in projects like this, you need to work with the mentality of, we want to do a thing A, but since we obviously can't do it like that, we should do thing B instead. And in that sense, just showing the aftermath of the slaughter works better if the mix of makeup and practical effects are used well with believable performances from the actors. If the characters of the film can convincingly see the horror in these remains of the dead, then the audience seeing it through their eyes can do it too. And I'm also adding that low-budget fan films like this are the only ones that can get away with this excuse. Big-budget TV and film productions have a much higher standard. Between the shots, or scenes, where Alice gets the car keys from Victor's remains and joins Perry, James and Hector, the scene has then moved from day to night, and then the one whose movie this was supposed to be shows up. Jason Voorhees is, by the way, credited in the end credits to have played himself, which on one hand is kind of funny on a meta level, and on the other hand, it raises all kinds of uncomfortable questions. The fight or flight response pushes James and Alice to fight Jason, who has some advantage over them with a superior strength, and did he just fall over nothing? Okay, there is a jump cut in the middle of there, so what? Perry then sends Alice and James to get a wrath to get her brother away before Jason attacks her. She fights Jason off with a telescope baton, which, as someone who has gone through a security guard training, I can say that Perry is using it both the right and the wrong way here. Right, because she is using it to keep hitting Jason into the center mass, likely to do more damage, and to the head, which I was trained not to do because that could kill a normal person. So Perry is using lethal force justifiably for self-defense. However, as she previously told the now dead Darwin Awards candidates,
Jason Voorhees cannot die. That is the curse of Crystal Lake.
Jason has unlimited health cheat and cannot be killed. Meaning that she is doing it wrong by wasting her energy in trying to deal damage, when she should be aiming her hits at Jason's knees, elbows, and wrists to cripple, immobilize, and overall turn his legs unable to keep him moving and hands unable to hold or use his weapons. She does get it right eventually when trying to suffocate Jason with suspenders, but it's not like Jason needs air to survive when he has been to space. Hector eventually attempts to pull a Martha to distract Jason from James cutting off his left hand. Finally someone went for the limbs! But James then gets killed off as the last fourth member of the original crew, as Jason punches him into the throat with his thumb. And again, acting, makeup, and the effects combined are what make this death work. Although you can pause and see that the wound in James's throat is splatter image pasted over the shot of James dying, which is okay in a fan film like this. Eventually, they probably manage to get Jason's unlimited health cheat to error and the bar goes to 0. And what is that background noise going on when Jason is down and Alice and Perry are sitting over his body as the final girls?
Is it over? For now. Let's get Hector. Okay.
That even carries over to the next ending scene where the 3 survivors wake up at the beach as their moms come to pick them up, and Jason does one more rises from the water scene, only to be killed by the moms who give the impression that this was not the first time they have done this. According to the premiere chat, this was the alternate ending, whereas in the original ending Jason would have been dismembered and be given a Viking's funeral, but that was probably over the budget, or something like that. I'll put that onto the tab of we want to do a thing A, but since we obviously can't do it like that, we should do the thing B instead. We spent Friday the 13th at Camp Crystal Lake. No Clickbait doesn't reinvent the horror genre like Sam Raimi's debut film Within the Woods did, but I can recognize it being done in similar spirit. While this was a fan film of an existing property, there was the passion of wanting to do the movie, and based on the behind the scenes photo, the cast and crew had fun in making it. If you have followed Possum Reviews YouTube channel, you have likely seen similar low-budget films made by a film crew like this being torn apart by the Possum. But if the Possum were to get his hands on We Spent Friday the 13th at Camp Crystal Lake No Clickbait to review, I could be wrong in saying this, but his critical tough love would probably rank it somewhere close to the Suburban Sasquatch, which I think is his most praise-reviewed B movie. Going forward, I would suggest the director to pick up some easily adaptable SCP to make a film of next. Unlike Friday the 13th, the SCPs are not copyrighted IPs, but rather they are registered under Creative Commons license, so anyone could do whatever they want with them as long as the original author and creator is credited on the adapted work. Congratulations on finally finishing your movie, and I hope I was fairly enough critical in reviewing it in this video. If you like this video, leave a like on it, comment what thoughts you have on it based on if you have seen it, or if you have watched it past spoilers and got interested to go see the movie itself. Remember, links in the description. Share my review among the other reviews that have been made on it, and subscribe to my channel for other videos I have coming in the future. Also, ding the bell so you can be in the audience to chat with me when I do a gameplay stream, and may your heart be your guiding key.